Good evening all of you. So I see you again, this time for chapter 6. I have been getting a lot of your messages. Good evening everyone joining me now. Good afternoon to all of you. So I have been getting your messages quite often about developing eco-survey classes more. So, it's just that I have been a little occupied with my GS classes and other sessions. And that is why I have not been able to see you as often as I would have liked to. तो लेकिन ये आपको मैं पक्का अश्योर कर देता हूँ कि मैं 10th 12th अप्रैल तक आपके ये सेशंस सारे चैप्टर्स के ख़त्म कर दूंगा. लेकिन अभी अगले वीक में मंडे को आपसे मिलूंगा आज के बाद, और वहाँ चैप्टर 6 का सेकंड पार्ट करेंगे. चैप्टर 6 इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चैप्टर फ्रॉम योर एग्जाम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, because it has several discussions that we see from social sector point of view, जो पेपर 2 GS में भी important है और पेपर 3 GS में भी important है. Good evening everyone joining me now. Good afternoon all of you. So this is on social sector. This chapter that we have is on social infrastructure and employment. So if we look at it, the introduction of the chapter says that 2020 and 2021 were the peak years of COVID, and due to that the social and health infrastructure was tested badly. It harmed country's social infrastructure strength, created trouble to a great extent, and job opportunities, health infrastructure, everything got hampered by that. This was 20 and 21. In fact, most of social indicators dropped in value in this time period. अगर इस टाइम पीरियड को देखें तो ज़्यादातर सोशल इंडिकेटर्स की वैल्यू गिर गई. यहाँ तक कि अगर अभी मैं थोड़ी देर में तुम्हें ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स पे लेके चलूँगा, even in human development index the social indicators have gone down quite a bit for entire world, not only India, for entire world. But the survey claims that fiscal year 23 has been a real year of rejuvenation. Rejuvenation means वो साल हुआ बन रहा है जहाँ वापस चीज़ें रीग्रुप कर रही हैं. The year where things are coming back on track. So fiscal year 23 has been the year of rejuvenation, and they say that the sector has withered the storm and come out stronger to meet the vision of सबका साथ, सबका विकास and सबका विश्वास. अब how stronger वो मैं डिस्कस करूँगा, क्योंकि सर्वे हैज़ बीन क्वाइट अपॉलोजेटिक अबाउट गवर्नमेंट्स रोल, काफ़ी तारीफ करते रहे हैं, बट सारी चीज़ें तारीफ़ों के ऊपर नहीं है सोशल सेक्टर में इंडिया में. बट हाँ, ये ज़रूर है that we have been able to come out of pandemic comparatively less scathed compared to what is happening in the western countries. अगर मैं कंपैरिजन करूं जो यूरोप में हो रहा है, जो यूएस में हुआ है, जैसे उनके पॉवर्टी ख़राब हुए, तो हम अब ये एक साल बाद पता चलेगा ठीक से कि हमारी हालत कैसी है. बट ओवरऑल इंडियन सिस्टम हैज़ स्टिल बीन एबल टू रिकवर क्वाइट डिसेंटली compared to where we were earlier. So then, taking you further, this is the first thing to go by, that if you look at social service expenditure by the government, ये figure 6.1 है survey में, total service expenditure by the government, how they have gone about it. तो एक तो है as a percentage of total expenditure, it has been going up. See, in the year 2021 to 21-22 it slightly went down, but if you see 21-22 it has gone up, and 22-23 it has gone up. So all these years if you see, the sector has maintained almost a common value, 25.2, 25.4, 25.2, और 22-23 में ये 26.6% दिखा रहा है. That is around 80.1 लाख करोड़. ये ट्रेंड याद रखोगे प्रीलिम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. फ्रॉम योर प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यू नीड टू रिमेंबर द ट्रेंड्स in the system, nothing else. So remember your trends, nothing else over the system. कि trend क्या है? Initially it was stagnant from 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, came down slightly in 20-21, and then 21-22, 22-23, expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure has been rising. And expenditure on social services as percentage of GDP, 6.7% in 17-18 to 8.3% in 22-23. So this has been continuously rising again. And the survey says that the expenditure on social sector, ये एक बात दिमाग में रखोगे अगेन, expenditure on social sector जब ये कैलकुलेट किया गया है, this includes education, arts, sports, ये चीज़ें हैं जो एजुकेशन और जो एक्सपेंडिचर ऑन सोशल सेक्टर में इंक्लूड किया गया है. मेडिकल एंड पब्लिक हेल्थ, medical and public health, these are all expenditure on social sector, education, arts, sports, medical and public health. Then family welfare, water supply and sanitation, family welfare, water supply and sanitation. So Jal Jeevan Mission, healthcare expenditure, education expenditure, expenditure on Swachh Bharat Yojana, everything is included when you talk on these. Then housing, urban development, welfare of SCs, STs. So housing, urban development, and then expenditure on welfare of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward castes. All these are included when you talk about social sector expenditure. And then nutrition, relief on account of natural calamities, all that is included here when these numbers are given to you. ये जो numbers आपको दिए जा रहे हैं उनमें वो सारी चीज़ें included हैं. Nutrition पे जो खर्चा हुआ, natural calamities के लिए जो खर्चा हुआ, all that gets included in the social sector expenditure. So survey says that this social sector expenditure has remained quite consistent, and that is why I shared this with you, the figure. And within this, if you see, there are few more things that survey highlights, that in this expenditure on social sector, expenditure on education has been seen at 2.9% of GDP, and healthcare has been seen at 2.1% of GDP in the year 22-23. That's again something you should keep in mind, that expenditure on social services, that is recorded at 8.3%. Important is expenditure on education at 2.9% of GDP. Now remember, this is 2.9% of real GDP that they take, and that is why education expenditure is approximately 3 lakh crore, 3.5 lakh crore, and they add both center and state. Also remember, when they talk education on expenditure on education, they consider many things like expenditure on primary education, secondary education, tertiary education, skill development, training on the job, and so on. So all those educations are taken across. Good afternoon everyone joining me now. So that is about education system that you go by, but the important thing I needed you to remember is these two, that education and expenditure on education is 2.9% of GDP, and expenditure on healthcare is 2.1% of GDP. And remember one thing, this is combined education expenditure by center and state. Combined is expenditure by center and state. तो ये सिर्फ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का खर्चा नहीं है, ये सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को मिला के जो खर्चा है मैं उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. Then the next thing comes up, which is about Human Development Index in 2021, where we see it. There is one big change. Switzerland has replaced Norway. For the first time in the last 10 years, Norway has been replaced by any other country as the top ranked country in HDI. ये खैर इंडिया से रिलेटेड नहीं है, लेकिन तुम्हारे प्रीलिम्स के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है तो दिमाग में रखोगे, दैट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम नॉर्वे हैज बीन रिप्लेस्ड by any country in Human Development Index. Switzerland has a 0.962 value, Norway has 0.961 value. So this has happened for the first time. Norway is ranked second this year. Norway is ranked second this year, but Switzerland has been replacing Norway. That's one big news. About India, we are ranked 132 in the South Asian region, and you know this ranking has been consistently going down. If you ask me, even in the South Asian region, अगर मैं साउथ एशिया की बात करूं तो अब इंडिया की हालत ये है, श्रीलंका है सबसे हाईएस्ट रैंक HDI में साउथ एशिया में. आफ्टर श्रीलंका इट इज मालदीव्स, आफ्टर मालदीव्स इट इज भूटान, आफ्टर भूटान इट इज बांग्लादेश, then it is India, then it is Nepal, then Pakistan, and then Afghanistan. बट इंडिया के लिए एक सैड न्यूज़ ये है कि हमारा रिलेटिव पोजीशन अब 5th हो गया है साउथ एशिया में, जबकि ये 3rd हुआ करता था आज से 4 साल पहले. इन द 2018-19 ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स, India was above Bangladesh and Bhutan. Now we have gone below Bangladesh and Bhutan. All right. So this is the basic problem that we see here, that India was above Bangladesh and Bhutan. Now it is below Bangladesh and Bhutan. That is the problem. Thank you, Ria. So this is one part that we have to get into, you know, that we have to understand. तो ये एक चीज़ हमें दिमाग में रखनी है कि ये जो डिक्लाइनिंग ट्रेंड है उसे स्टॉप करें. इनफैक्ट हमारा रैंक भी डिक्लाइन हुआ फ्रॉम 132 from 130 in the year 2020 to 132 in the last year 2021. That's again not good news for India. 0.633 is India's score, while India's score was 0.645. अगर मैं 2020 के स्कोर की बात करूं तो 0.645 था India's score. You know, that is again something that we should be careful about, that our score has gone down. Now that score has gone down for practically every country because life expectancy, GDP, it all went down for the countries. तो स्कोर नीचे गया, कोविड पैंडेमिक के वजह से स्कोर नीचे गया. लेकिन इम्पॉर्टेंट ये है यहाँ पे कि ये अच्छा समाचार नहीं होता. ये इतना स्कोर नीचे जाने का कारण रहा है, our GDP had gone down last year because of COVID pandemic to 2021, and our life expectancy did not increase as much. So these are things we should take care of, that unless we don't do well, you know, unless we don't do well on these indicators, the gross national income per capita is 6590, which is just slightly ahead of South Asia. Survey ने लिखते हुए claim किया that India is ahead of South Asia in case of average that we have. That's true, India is ahead of South Asia, but by a margin 0.01, which for the largest economy of the region is not suitable, क्योंकि हमारा relative rank 5 है, 4 countries हमसे ऊपर. और मैं फिर repeat करूँगा, for the largest economy of the region, that is something we can do better on. We need to focus better on our social infrastructure to do that. It is not that we are not focusing at all. It is just that we should focus better. ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि भारत बिल्कुल भी ध्यान नहीं दे रहा अपने सामाजिक व्यवस्था, सोशल सिस्टम पे, सोशल सेक्टर पे भी, लेकिन ज़्यादा करने की ज़रूरत है. हेल्थ केयर, एजुकेशन, सैनिटेशन, इन चीज़ों को जब तक हम सीरियसली नहीं लेंगे हमारे टारगेट्स मीट नहीं होंगे. और ये अभी रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है. दैट इज़ व्हाट वी सी बीइंग रिफ्लेक्टेड. All right. Now, when you look at anchoring inflationary expectations there, even in money and banking, I have discussed it. So please check that. All right. So this is where we are. Again, I repeat, and look at it. If we see any semblance of competing with the Chinese, we will have to do a lot of hard work. They are ranked 79, but then if we look at their indicators, their life expectancy is 78.2 compared to ours 67.2. Their expected years of schooling is 14 years compared to ours almost 12 years. Their mean years of schooling for adults is 7.6, ours is 6.7. Now education, we still are quite close, but the difference is here in healthcare, and the difference is heavy in per capita income. So, and I deliberately highlighted Chinese because we are all claiming that next decade will be either India, next century will be either India or China. इसमें एक और बात भी है, जेंडर इनइक्वालिटी इंडेक्स में हमारा रैंक 122 रहा है इस बार. ये एक दिमाग में रख लोगे that in gender inequality index, India's rank is 122 and India's score is 0.49. इसमें जितना कम स्कोर होता है उतना अच्छा माना जाता है. In a gender inequality index, the lesser you are scoring, better you are considered. So our score at the moment in this is 0.49, as clear as possible in our approach of going for the whole indexation values. Perfect, Paramjeet. Now comes the next thing, that is when we look at multidimensional poverty index. That's another thing that they highlight, multidimensional poverty index, that the calculation that they have done for India. Now remember, multidimensional poverty index is regarded as something good, mainly because multidimensional poverty index is regarded as something good, mainly because it measures poverty not only on the basis of income, but on the basis of several other parameters. You know, MDPI measures poverty not only on the basis of income, but on the basis of several parameters like education, healthcare, and standard of living, and deprivation is measured in that. So in education, they take gross enrollment, they take mean years of education for adults. In healthcare, they take nutrition and they take child mortality. And in standard of living, they take 6 parameters like accessibility to electricity, accessibility to clean water, the type of fuel that you use, type of floor that you have, type of assets that you contain. All these things are taken under multidimensional poverty index. And in terms of multidimensional poverty index in Indian context, we have done quite well. From more than 55.1 crore people under multidimensional poverty index, India has brought it down to 16.4 crore people in the last 15 years. So this is a decline that we see of 41.5 crore people that I have given you here, who have been brought outside the poverty window in multidimensional poverty index terms. So that is a good news that we have from India's point of view, that in multidimensional poverty index terms, we have been able to control this for large number of people. Also it says that if we go by multidimensional poverty index, the number of multidimensionally poor in India has also come down from 65 crore to 23 crore. So effectively, percentage of people having been brought down is from 55 to 16, and 41.5 crore people, as we see from this chart, have been brought down, out of multidimensional poverty. It's a huge achievement for a country like ours. It shows also, and understand this, ye dhyan se sunna, it shows also the role of growth in reducing poverty. जैसे हमने ग्रो किया, हमारे पास साधन आए तो हम प्रोग्राम रन कर पाए, महात्मा गांधी नेशनल रूरल एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी एक्ट, प्रोग्राम रन कर पाए जैसे उज्ज्वला स्कीम, प्रोग्राम रन कर पाए सहज बिजली हर घर योजना स्कीम. तो एक्सेसिबिलिटीज बढ़ी इससे, जल जीवन मिशन, और ये एक्सेसिबिलिटी बढ़ने से ये इंडिकेटर्स बेटर शो कर रहे हैं अपनी हालत. सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव बीन एबल टू डू मच बेटर. इनफैक्ट इकोनॉमिक सर्वे एक और बात कहता है दैट अगर आप $1.9 पर कैपिटा पर डे के हिसाब से देखिए तो इतने लोग नहीं नजर आते पॉवर्टी के बाहर जितने MDPI से आते हैं. क्यों? If you look at poverty with $1.9 per capita per day, then we don't see so many people out of poverty as we see in multidimensional poverty index, mainly because when you have multidimensional poverty index, when you define multidimensional poverty index, you consider many terms where the provisioning is done by the government. For example, electrification provisioning. For example, provisioning of water supply, provisioning of healthcare, provisioning of education facility, and that improves multidimensional poverty much better. All right, then if you look at things per se here, one question you are asking me, Himanshu, how are we defining poverty here? We take 10 indicators. I just named those 10 indicators for you, from health, education, and from standard of living. And out of those 10 indicators, if you are deprived on 3, then you are considered in poverty. And if you are deprived on 6, you are considered in severe poverty. That is how we consider poverty in this case. Now, when you look at things here, no, global happiness index kind of things are not as rigorous as what they should be. Then comes another talk which is very important. ये तुम्हें मेंस में बहुत सारे आंसर्स लिखने को देगा. This is Aspirational Districts Program. This was launched in, और मैंने तुम्हें सारे डिटेल्स दे दिए हैं. जब तुम्हें ये PDF अपलोडेड रहेंगे तो तुम्हारे लिए आसान होगा इनको देखना. बट समझना, पहला ये जनवरी 2018 में लॉन्च हुआ. 117 एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स 28 स्टेट्स में फाइंड किए गए और फोकस है स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ ईच डिस्ट्रिक्ट. यू नो कि लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स का मतलब वो छोटी छोटी चीज़ें जो इमीडिएटली की जा सकती हैं और जिनसे बड़ा बदलाव लाया जा सकता है. Low hanging fruits imply those small changes which can be done immediately and where bigger development can be brought about. That is what we call low hanging fruits. You know, that is the idea. So what have we done here? The key themes are, अब ये याद रखोगे, 1 health and nutrition, 2 education, 3 agriculture and water resources, 4th financial inclusion and 5th skill development. इन्हीं चीज़ों के बेसिस पर, and then of course the basic infrastructure development. तो इन्हीं चीज़ों के बेसिस पर जज किया जाता है कि चीज़ें कि एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट कितना डेवलप हुआ. अगर प्योर एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट के हिसाब से देखो तो उसके अंदर दे टेक स्किल डेवलपमेंट एज वन along with education, and this as the 5th one, you know, infrastructure development. ये प्रीलिम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से याद रखोगे किन किन पैरामीटर्स पे ध्यान दिया जाता है एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट में. हेल्थ एंड न्यूट्रिशन, एजुकेशन, एग्रीकल्चर and water resources, financial inclusion and skill development, and basic infrastructure development. On all these things we put the focus in context of the aspirational districts. And what we have seen is that aspirational district program has given some good results. It shows that over all the districts in India where we implemented aspirational districts program, you know, 73 on 10 indicators, 73 aspirational districts have surpassed the state averages. देखो ये aspirational district program में होता क्या है? First, the district has to compare itself with the best performing district of the state, and then the district has to try achieving targets to match the best performing district of the country. So first the district has to compare itself on the best performing district of the state, and then the district has to take action with the best performing district of the country. तो उसके बेसिस पर ये aspirational district program work करता है. और इसमें ये देखा गया है that among the aspirational districts, you know, all districts that have made significant improvements, and some illustrations economic survey gives us, it says that 46 districts have improved their position in health by up to 45% in health and nutrition, and 23 districts have improved their position in health and nutrition by up to 69%. अगर कभी तुम्हें short note आ गया मेंस एग्जाम में लिखने को on aspirational district program, then from economic survey pages like page 152 are gold mine for you. Page 152 उन्हीं के कुछ points मैंने यहाँ दे दिए हैं तुम्हें, but page 152 of economic survey is a gold mine in case they ask you a mains question on aspirational district, क्योंकि वहाँ उन्होंने specific points दिए हैं. That maternal mortality rate control, infant mortality rate control, and there we see that up to 69% improvement is seen in 23 districts, and 45% improvement is seen in around 46 districts on health and nutrition. So that is something which is quite welcoming in aspirational district program. It is also seen that in case of financial inclusion, like accessibility to banking, accessibility to insurance, accessibility to credit, aspirational districts have performed much better than the non-aspirational district. तो ये एक और बात देखी गई है कि जब फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन की बात देखी जाए तो एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैव परफॉर्म्ड मच बेटर देन द नॉन एस्पिरेशनल district. And then apart from that, Mudra loans and all have been given much better in aspirational districts than the non-aspirational districts. In fact, in basic infrastructure indicator, 23 aspirational district. Second, I said in financial inclusion, many aspirational districts have shown better growth than even the other non-aspirational districts. उनसे बेहतर करके दिखा रहे हैं. And in infrastructure, many aspirational districts with respect to all-weather roads and so on are actually showing completion of work than the non-aspirational district. So this is something that you need to, you need to keep in mind. That will help you better. Then another thing is, this has been used as a template of good governance. तो एक है मिशन उत्कर्ष. अब इस मिशन उत्कर्ष में क्या किया जा रहा है? ये मिशन उत्कर्ष जो है, इसके अंदर 15 central ministries have an interface with the public, have identified their load performing 10-15 districts. So in Mission Utkarsh, 15 central ministries with interface with public have identified 10 to 15 low performing districts. ये low performing districts को identify कर पाए हैं और उनका अब ध्यान इन पे होगा. ये solution oriented approach होगा, that these districts will now be targeted so that better approach can be developed. An aspirational blocks program, I have already taught you in the first chapter that more than 500 aspirational blocks have been identified. और जैसे aspirational district program run किया जा रहा है, वैसे ही aspirational blocks program run किया जाएगा. So this is something that is another thing that has been developed. Then the economic survey talks about labor law reforms that we have done. They talk about the labor law reforms and the progress on that, that how we have progressed on labor law reforms. If we see the progress made on labor law reforms, 29 central labor laws were amalgamated, rationalized and simplified into 4 labor codes. एक code on wages, ये 2019 में पास हुआ, industrial relations code 2020 में, code on social security 2020 में, occupational safety health and working conditions code 2020 में. इनको मैंने एनालाइज किया है एक सेपरेट यूट्यूब वीडियो में, मैं टीम से डिस्कस कर लूंगा, आपके साथ उस वीडियो का लिंक भी हम लोग शेयर कर लेंगे. There is a separate YouTube video in which I have analyzed these 4 labor codes, and since these 4 labor codes have not yet been implemented, so the analysis more or less remains same. बस एक चीज हो गई है, उस वीडियो में आप मुझे कहते पाए जाएंगे, मैं कहता पाया जाऊंगा कि कोई पोर्टल अभी तक नहीं बना, अब ई-श्रम पोर्टल बन चुका है, लेकिन अदरवाइज the analysis remains similar and it will help you in understanding labor code and labor market. So it's something I will share the link with you by the end of the class, and you can watch that video also. It will help you in understanding things. Now coming to this, we say that as of 13th December 2022, 13 देखो, अब जब तक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट इन लॉज को पास नहीं करेंगे, अपने कोड्स पब्लिश नहीं करेंगे, ये कोड्स इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हो सकते. Till the state governments don't pass these codes, don't implement these codes, we can't pass these codes and implement them. So progress has been seen. 31 states have pre-published the draft rules on wages, 21 states under industrial relation, 28 states under code and social security, and 26 under occupational safety, health and working conditions code. इसमें वेस्ट बंगाल मिसिंग है in all the 4, जिसने अभी तक कोड पास नहीं किया है. West Bengal is the only state which has not passed any of these 4 codes, and no, not the only state, I'm sorry, West Bengal and Nagaland are 2 states जिन्होंने ये पास नहीं किया है। आप 31 स्टेट से चिंता मत करना, ये स्टेट्स एंड यूनियन टेरिटरीज मिलाकर बात हो रही है, that how many states and union territories have together done it. So ये 31 states actually mean 31 states and union territories. सर्वे ने भी यही डिस्कस किया, states and union territories actually. तो ये ध्यान रखोगे, वेस्ट बंगाल एंड नागालैंड आर द ओनली 2 states which have not passed any of these codes. Otherwise there are states which have not passed few, like Mizoram has not passed occupational safety conditions code, along with Tamil Nadu and Sikkim and so on. So there are countries, then Tamil Nadu and Sikkim have also not passed industrial relations code. तो ये कुछ states हैं जहाँ पर अभी दिक्कत है, but otherwise broadly majority of the states and union territories have passed this code. From your exams point of view, you can keep that much in mind. Then the other thing is that what are these labor codes for? So why reform? So one is to make sure that labor laws are in tune with the changing labor market trends, so that we have reduced definition of authorities, multiplicity of authorities से labor को नुकसान ज़्यादा होता था। दूसरा, मिनिमम वेज रिक्वायरमेंट को और वेलफेयर नीड ऑफ अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर वर्कर को, माइग्रेंट वर्कर्स के नीड को, उनको अकोमोडेट किया जा सके। सो दैट इज अनदर रीजन व्हाई लेबर लॉज हैव टू बी पास्ड। Then compliance mechanisms have to be made easy to improve ease of doing business, and technological use has to be internalized, and accountability of enforcement should be developed, and that is the reason why these laws have been passed. तो मैंने जानबूझ के आपको ये दे दिया है, आपको ये PDF मिल जाएगा विद दिस स्लाइड, तो आपको पता चल जाएगा कि अच्छा ठीक है, ये कारण रहे हैं कि हमारे जो लेबर लॉज हैं वो पास किए गए हैं। तो अगर कभी कोई अचानक पूछ लें कि क्यों ये लेबर लॉ पास किया गया, तो उसका ये कारण आप दे सकते हैं। देन ई-श्रम पोर्टल इज बिकमिंग अ गेम चेंजर ग्रेजुअली। एक बात का ध्यान रखोगे, ई-श्रम पोर्टल मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट उनके अंदर आता है। प्रीलिम्स में अगेन ये बातें पूछते हैं, कभी कभी आपके इंटरव्यू में भी बात पूछ ली जाती है कि अच्छा अगर कोई बात हुई कौन सी मिनिस्ट्री में आता है। सो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट, that is where eShram portal is included, and this is a national database of unorganized workers, and then it is Aadhar verified, a national database of unorganized workers and Aadhar verified, and it contains details of workers, like what is their name, what is the occupation that they do, their address, their educational qualifications, skill types, so realization of their employability, and that extends the benefits of social security schemes to them. कि सरकार अगर कोई social security scheme लाते हैं, कोई pension का fund लाते हैं, कोई insurance का fund लाते हैं, तो workers को उससे benefit मिल सके। That if government can bring some pension fund, some insurance fund, the workers can get benefited by that. इसमें एक काम और किया गया है, it has been, the eShram portal has been linked to national career services. इसके बारे में एक छोटा सा डिस्कशन करूंगा मैं आपके साथ in this chapter itself, but eShram portal has been linked to national career services. अब ये एक और पोर्टल है जिसके career service project, and eShram portal is also linked to ASEEM portal. ये ASEEM portal सरकार ने सेटअप किया, इसका पर्पस होता है कि ये प्रॉपरली एम्प्लॉयमेंट सीकर्स एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेटर्स को कनेक्ट कर सकें। ASEEM पोर्टल इज आत्मनिर्भर स्किल एम्प्लॉय एंड एम्प्लॉयर, जहां पर एम्प्लॉय भी रजिस्टर कर सकते हैं एंड एम्प्लॉयर भी रजिस्टर कर सकते हैं, मैपिंग, ताकि वो मैप कर सके एक दूसरे को। सो आत्मनिर्भर स्किल एम्प्लॉय एंड एम्प्लॉयर मैपिंग। तो ये जो eShram पोर्टल है, नाउ इट इज लिंक्ड टू बोथ दीज पोर्टल, दैट इज नेशनल करियर सर्विस प्रोजेक्ट एंड ASEEM पोर्टल। सो इन दैट केस इट अलाउज बेटर कनेक्टिविटी। नेशनल करियर सर्विस भी क्या करता है कि जो स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज हैं उनको मदद करता है in finding the choice of workers they are looking for, and workers are getting the help that they can connect to people who are seeking their work. So all this will mean that we will have a holistic approach. That is the idea, that all this will mean that we will have a holistic approach of these events for us. So that is another good thing that we observe with ourselves. Also remember, when it comes to registration on 𝐸�ශ්रम portal, 28.5 crore unorganized sector workers have already registered themselves on 𝐸�ශ්रम portal. 28.5 crore unorganized sector workers, और ये growth rate होता जा रहा है. If you look at it from August 21 to December 22, there has been this growth, that 28.5 crore workers have registered themselves on 𝐸�ශ්रम portal. There are few more interesting things that the survey says, that is, female registrations are there at 52.8%. Female registration 52.8%. Another thing that it says, that 61% of total registration, 61.7%, are people in the age group 18 to 40. 61.7% of total registration are for people in the age group 18 to 40. And the three major states which have registered are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal. जो तीन मेजर स्टेट्स जहां से रजिस्ट्रेशन हुई है वो है उत्तर प्रदेश, 29% of registration from Uttar Pradesh, and then 10% registration from Bihar, and then 9% registration from West Bengal. So Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal, three major states which have been registering. Apart from that, agriculture, domestic help and construction workers are the major people registering. The agricultural workers, 52.8% of registration is agricultural workers, 9.9% is domestic help, and apart from that, construction workers are another 9% of it. So domestic help is 9.8% and construction workers are 9.1%. तो वर्कर्स की सारी डिटेल रहेगी अब मिनिस्ट्री के पास, उनको वेलफेयर प्रोजेक्ट का हिस्सा मिलने लग जाएगा, और ये वेलकम चेंजेस हैं अगेन जो इंडिया में देखने को मिल रहे हैं. और लेबर लॉ के अंदर भी ये बातें समझ में आती हैं धीरे धीरे. There might be fake registrations, Kriti, that's a possibility. But remember, fake registrations don't create a lot of benefits for you, because there is no automatic benefit in this portal. It is not that if you are registered on the portal, automatically you will get some money or automatically you will get some benefits. You will get the benefit only under Atal Pension Yojana or Jeevan Suraksha Yojana. So you will have to contribute to get that benefit. So the possibility of fake registrations can be there, and even if we assume that there are 10% fake registration, जो कि मैं बहुत बड़ा number बोल रहा हूँ, but if we assume there are 10% fake registration, still imagine 25 crore people registered still. So that's some number, and I think we should give credit where it is due. ये बात पहले किसी ने नहीं सोची, और सोची होगी तो इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं की, क्योंकि बाद में जब इम्प्लीमेंट होता है तो लोग कहते हैं हमने भी सोचा था ऐसा करने का, इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किए. तो जब ये इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ है तो कहीं ना कहीं तो ये बेनिफिट दे रहा है लोगों को, और अभी फ्यूचर में और भी देगा. सो दिस इज अ गुड चेंज दैट वी हैव सीन. सो 𝐸�ශ්रम पोर्टल, माइंड यू, कीप इट इन माइंड. एक और बात आप अपने दिमाग में रखेंगे, मैं चूंकि आपसे बात कर रहा था मिनिस्ट्री की, ये जो असीम पोर्टल है वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्किल डेवलपमेंट प्रोवाइड करती है. सो प्लीज़ कीप दैट इन माइंड. जो असीम पोर्टल है वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्किल डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर आता है. जस्ट टू मेक श्योर कि आप कंफ्यूज ना हो जाएं कि ये भी लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट में आता है. असीम पोर्टल इज मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्किल डेवलपमेंट. जस्ट कीप दैट इन योर माइंड. Then we take the story further. The survey says that Aadhar is again something which creates a unique identity and has given huge benefits to people. Well, of course it has. In fact, Paul Romer, who has been a Nobel Prize winner in economics, has said that Aadhar is the most sophisticated ID program in the world. So when you take Aadhar, when you take UPI, when you take Bhim kind of portals, I mean, again, there are some progresses we have made where we are actually doing better than many other developed countries of the world. इनफैक्ट अगर आप इंडिया के बाहर जाएंगे तो कभी कभी तकलीफ होने लगती है कि मैं उतनी आसानी से पेमेंट नहीं कर पा रहा जितनी आसानी से मैं इंडिया में कर देता हूँ. सो दिस हैज़ बीन अ वेलकम चेंज एज एन इंडियन. आपके पास ब्रैगिंग राइट्स होते हैं कि अरे तुम मेरे देश आओ, देखो तुम ऐसे सीमलेस पेमेंट करवाएंगे, तुम लोग क्या अभी भी ये टटपूंजिया नोट लेके घूमते हो. So that is something that we have done well on. So the same thing is about Aadhar, and then they say that the survey says that these are the key usages in daily lives of the citizen, like usage in DBT, that is what Aadhar does, that it does usage in DBT. Aadhar enabled payment system, and Aadhar enabled payment system का benefit क्या है कि आपको कोई भी बैंक अकाउंट अगर है तो आप पेमेंट कर सकते हो बिना किसी भी तरह के OTP जनरेट किए हुए या बिना किसी भी तरह के artificial system से. It is simply your bank account which will be transferring funds. So all withdrawals, cash deposits, that is what Aadhar enabled payment system does. Then Jan Dhan Aadhar and Mobile Trinity is already doing great with respect to even food sector in India. And then it is One Nation, One Ration Card scheme, and the survey says that the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme is it has helped in improving PDS database because Aadhar authentication होता है. तो चूंकि आधार ऑथेंटिकेशन होता है तो इसका मतलब आपका डेटाबेस इंप्रूव होता है. तो जो डुप्लीकेशंस होते थे, एक आदमी के नाम पे दो लोगों ने सामान ले लिया, या कभी कभी एक आदमी अपना सामान लेने नहीं आया तो उसका सामान बेच दिया गया ओपन मार्केट में, ये सब होने के चांसेस थोड़े रुकने लगते हैं. द डुप्लीकेशन चांसेस एक्सेट्रा स्टार्ट बिकमिंग लेसर बिकॉज नाउ इट इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल to duplicate the identity of the individual as it becomes Aadhar enabled. In fact, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana has been very successful in reaching people mainly because of the Aadhar Connect that it has developed. So that is another thing that it has done. Then PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, all the payments are done through Aadhar. Co-win, we could reach out to more than 2.2 billion people to give vaccine, was again something which was Aadhar enabled. And then of course the face authentication, that if anywhere, if it is needed, like say a Jeevan Praman for making sure that the person is alive, for pension funds and all, face authentication can be done via Aadhar. So survey says that the Aadhar system has helped a lot with respect to the overall development of things. अब यहाँ के बाद सर्वे एक दो जगह थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ बोलते पाए जाते हैं. जैसे बोलते हैं इम्प्रूविंग एम्प्लॉयमेंट ट्रेंड्स, कि हमारा एम्प्लॉयमेंट ट्रेंड जो है वो इम्प्रूव कर रहा है. वेल, इम्प्रूव कर रहा है ये देख के ऐसा लगता है, लेकिन अब यहाँ मैं आपको बताता हूँ कुछ चीज़ें. जैसे अगर सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड का नंबर 56% दिखता है, इफ दिस इज द नंबर वी सी, it reflects lack of good quality employment. Also, इतने सारे लोग एंटरप्रेन्योर नहीं है इंडिया में, मजबूरी में है. कोई गुटखा बेच रहा है, कोई 20 मीटर के शॉप में बिस्किट बेच रहा है, कोई बेचारा साइकिल की में हवा भर रहा है. ये सब सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड काउंट होते हैं हमारे सर्वे में. तो सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड का मतलब ये नहीं कि सब लोग बड़ा बिजनेस चला रहे हैं या इवन मीडियम स्केल का बिजनेस चला रहे हैं. और ये नंबर बढ़ना इंडिया जैसे कंट्री में कोई बहुत अच्छी सूचना नहीं देता. हमेशा सर्वे क्लेम कर देते हैं इट शोज राइजिंग एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप फोर्स इन इंडिया. बट इफ यू आस्क मी, आई विल बी अ लिटिल बॉदर्ड इफ आई सी दिस नंबर rising in India, because this shows some rising distress, and especially when we see this number falling in India, the regular wage and salary number, this number should rise in India, and then casual labor number in India, this has been declining. That's a good trend. Casual labor means workers who do not get a regular employment and workers who are not fully trained in the work that they are doing. So that shows again a good trend. That's not a problem. But if you ask me, the problem here is this part. All right, that is the aspect. No, I think, Manisha, you are being unfair to the system. The incidence of corruption has come down by saving almost 71% of the expenditure we earlier used to do on PDS centers. So maybe तुमने अपने आसपास कहीं देख लिया होगा ज़बरदस्त किसी चोर को, ये मैं मान सकता हूँ कि चोर तो हर जगह होते हैं, हमारे भी गांव में हैं काफ़ी लोग जो चोरी चकारी करके काम चला रहे हैं, उनको देख के लगता है सिस्टम में पूरा चोरी हो रहा है. But believe me, the point of sale machine and fingerprint methods have controlled things quite a bit. As compared to what used to happen earlier. पहले तो जो अमीर लोग होते थे वो उठा के ले जाते थे पीडीएस से और पॉवर्टी लाइन वाले के नाम पर. तो अब वो चीज़ें काफ़ी सुधर रही हैं. 71% का एक्सपेंडिचर कंट्रोल है इसके बेसिस पर. और ये असेसमेंट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने नहीं किया, यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ फिलाडेल्फिया ने रिसर्च किया और उन्होंने फाइंड किया है दैट विद द पॉइंट ऑफ सेल मशीन्स इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन इंडिया 71% expenditure has been controlled. So I think it will be unfair if we say that it has not been significantly successful. But this again I come back, this is the problem part that we see here. उसके अलावा एक और बात है, सर्वे ने अपने नंबर्स 2021 पे रोके हैं और असली जो चेंजेस आए होंगे वो 21, 22, 22, 23 में आए होंगे, तो हमें रुक कर वेट करना होगा. The survey stops at 2021. That means the survey would have happened, the numbers would have been calculated around 6 months earlier. Post COVID क्या असर पड़ा है, पोस्ट कोविड कितना इम्पैक्ट पड़ा है, इसके लिए हमें और डिटेल जानना पड़ेगा इन डेटाज का. सो राइट नाउ इफ यू आस्क मी, this is something which we have to get worried about. Pallav, we have no idea that is it casual labor transferring to self-employed, or is it casual labor which has been reduced because they might have stopped working and gone out of labor force. We will have to see that also. One good news is that labor force participation rate in both males and females has shown a continuous increase. The labor force participation rate in both males and females has shown an increase. Labor force participation rate is number of people who are working and number of people who are actively searching work. That is labor force participation rate. Number of people who are working and number of people who are searching work. Now that has gone up in both male and female, but the numbers are still, if you ask me, quite low. Among males, 57.5% is labor force participation. अब सोचो 15 साल से 60 साल के बीच के लोग, उनमें से 57.5% काम कर रहे हैं. अगर मैं मान लूँ 20% भी वो लोग हैं जो 15 to 22 के बीच में हैं, तो करीब 20% लोग ऐसे हैं मेल्स में जो काम ढूंढ तक नहीं रहे. तो भगवान जाने ये काम कैसे चला रहे हैं अपना, लेकिन ये काम चला रहे हैं. मैं बताता हूँ कैसे. किराए के खर्चे से, गांव की ज़मीन के को रेंट पे डालकर, और ये नेगेटिव वेज ऑफ अर्निंग इनकम होते हैं फॉर प्रोडक्टिविटी पर्पस. इफ़ वी वांट आवर इकोनॉमी टू बी प्रोडक्टिव, विल नीड मोर पीपल वर्किंग एज एंटरप्रेन्योर एंड मोर पीपल एज वर्कर्स, wage rate based workers. So this is something we got to be careful about. That's another change that we need to do. Among females, when we see on the labor force participation rate among females, that has shown some increase, but still is only 25.1%. That is again something very low. 75% females not working. But survey ने इस पर एक बात उठाई है जिससे मैं पूरी तरह असहमत नहीं हूँ. Survey has picked up a point here where I don't disagree with them entirely. I'll tell you what the survey has picked up. एक बात और आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं बता दूं, ये जितने डेटा दे रहा हूं मैं आपको, ये यूजुअल स्टेटस ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट है. यूजुअल स्टेटस ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट का मतलब होता है कि अगर आप पिछले एक साल में प्रोडक्टिवली एम्प्लॉयड थे किसी भी एक वीक के लिए, तो ये एक बहुत ही ब्रॉड डेटा होता है. दैट इज यूजुअल स्टेटस ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट. So when you talk about usual status, एक साल में एक महीने के लिए अगर आप employed थे, out of 365 days, if you have been employed for 30 days, then that is called usual status employment. On that basis, these data we are giving you. Otherwise, there is a current weekly status employment, that in the given week, have you been occupied productively for at least 3 to 4 days, and then there is a current daily status of employment, which is about whether on a given day yesterday, were you employed or not. So of course, the numbers will change as we go further. If we take weekly status of employment, then the labor force participation rate for males was 75% and for females was 27.5%. So that we see that the labor force participation rate for males rises to 75% if we take the weekly status data, that were you occupied for at least one day in the week in the past 1 week. And for females also it rises slightly to 27%. But consistently comparison has happened on the basis of usual status. तो इसीलिए भी मैंने भी जो number आपको दिए, that is on usual status. Now also remember, so this is one aspect, the regular wage and salary workers have been declining with closing down of many MSMEs and many other businesses during the pandemic 2021. So we see that number coming down. Also from 1920 itself, don't forget that there was a slowdown in the economy, and that was also resulting in closure of many of these numbers. So these are the reasons why the numbers look low with respect to the values here. Then, the survey says that in labor force, female labor force participation rate, there are measurement issues. In the female labor force participation rate, there are measurement issues. Again, I don't differ with survey much on that. There are measurement issues in female labor force participation rate. So measurement issue 1 is use of overly broad categories. मैं बताता हूँ ये क्या है कि जो ये कलेक्शन ऑफ फायरवुड है, पोल्ट्री फार्मिंग है अपने घर पर, अब ये तो एक प्रोडक्टिव वर्क है. अगर मैं अपने घर पे भी पोल्ट्री फार्मिंग कर रहा हूँ तो कुछ तो प्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूँ. अगर मैं फायरवुड कलेक्ट करके ला रहा हूँ तो कुछ तो कलेक्ट करके ला रहा हूँ. तो ये प्रोडक्टिव वर्क है, लेकिन हमने इनको क्लब कर रखा है विथ जनरली कमिंग अप एज डोमेस्टिक ड्यूटीज एंड ऑल. तो जब सर्वे होता है तो इनको डोमेस्टिक ड्यूटीज मान ली जाती हैं. और फिर जो वीमेन कहती हैं कि मैं फायरवुड कलेक्ट करती हूँ या मैं पोल्ट्री फार्मिंग करती हूँ, उनको आउट ऑफ वर्कफोर्स मान लिया जाता है. तो इसीलिए ये नंबर्स जो है वो थोड़ा ये नंबर्स जो है वो थोड़ा कमज़ोर हो जाते हैं. सेकेंड रीज़न सर्वे सेज दैट देयर इज़ नो रिकवरी क्वेश्चन इन द PLFS क्वेश्चनायर. एक ही सवाल पूछा जाता है, आप काम कर रहे हो या नहीं. अब ऑब्वियसली क्या होता है कभी कभी कि फीमेल्स उस वक्त अगर काम नहीं कर रहे हैं ज़्यादा दिनों से, उनको याद में नहीं है, तो वो बोल देते हैं नहीं. रिकवरी क्वेश्चन का मतलब होता है ask counter questions to verify that if they are not working in one field, are they working in another. And then measurement of work alongside employment. That is the third thing that has to broaden the horizon, that employment के अलावा productive activities और भी बहुत सारे हैं, including even the work done by housewives. So we have to have a wholesome measurement of work कि जो housewives हैं उनका जो काम है unpaid domestic work, जो expenditure saving work है, care giving का work है, उसे भी वर्क में इंक्लूड करें तो लेबर फोर्स पार्टिसिपेशन रेट थोड़ा ज़्यादा जल्दी बढ़ जाता है. So this is something that survey highlights, and I again repeat, I don't disagree with them when they show that. So please keep this in mind, these 3 points they highlight, and you keep them in mind in any debate on labor force participation rate being low in India. You can use these points to show that yes, labor force participation rate is low, no doubt, but it may not be as low as possible as it looks if we see the numbers and correct for these 3 changes. In fact, survey ये claim करते हैं कि अगर ये 3 changes के लिए correct कर लिया जाए तो labor force participation rate of women जो है वो यहाँ आ जाएगा कुछ 46.2, जो कि estimated है 32.5. तो वो कहते हैं अगर हम इन बातों को इंक्लूड कर लें, then there will be a drastic improvement in labor force participation rate of women. So that is again something that we need to take care of. Survey एक और बात करते हैं that the role of self-help groups in developing women empowerment in India. अब देखना ये पेपर 2 में तो तुम कोई आंसर लिखोगे women empowerment पे या पेपर 3 में, अगर ये कोट करते हो तो एग्जामिनर को ये अच्छा मैसेज दोगे कि देखो मैं सर्वे पढ़कर आया हूँ, मेरे पास सर्वे के डिटेल्स हैं जो बातें हो रही थी, प्लस ये अच्छे पॉइंट्स भी बताते हैं. तो पहली बात, जब आप कहते हो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, दीज आर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस with less than 20 people, less than equal to, जो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस होते हैं जिनमें 20 से कम लोग हैं और ये सोशली या इकोनॉमिकली दोनों में से कुछ एक होमोजीनियस होने चाहिए. या तो विमेन हो सबके सब, या ओल्ड एज पीपल हो, या फार्मर हो सबके सब, या किसी पर्टिकुलर स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री के हो सबके सब। तो ये होमोजीनस ग्रुप होना चाहिए एंड दे शुड बी सोशली एंड इकोनॉमिकली होमोजीनस। ये वॉलंटरीली फॉर्म होना चाहिए फॉर अ कलेक्टिव पर्पस of making giving loans, using savings, and with no instances on collateral of loans or no instances of end usage of credit, तो इनका collective purpose होना चाहिए, collective purpose of accumulative savings, giving loans, and no instances of taking collateral, and no instances of instructing credit use. No instances of taking collateral and no instances of instructing credit use. This is what this does, that collective purpose of accumulative savings, giving loans, and no instances of taking collateral and no instances of instructing credit use. ये जानबूझ के highlight कर रहा हूँ, जब आपसे कोई पूछे what are self-help groups, this is a self-help group. People with less than 20 people in the membership, socially and economically homogeneous, and collective purpose of accumulative savings and giving loans, and no instances of collateral, and no instances of instructing credit use. Then of course, they say that these have helped the women quite a bit. इंडिया में 1.2 करोड़ सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स हैं, उनमें से 88% विमेन बेस्ड सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स हैं, और इनको बैंक लिंकेज प्रोजेक्ट के थ्रू बैंक्स के साथ लिंक कर दिया गया है. विद द बैंक लिंकेज प्रोजेक्ट्स दे हैव बीन लिंक्ड विथ द बैंक्स per se. Now in that case also they say something very nice. They say that ये जो बैंक लिंकेज प्रोजेक्ट है इसमें रिटर्न जो है पैसे का वो 97% है, मतलब डिफॉल्ट नहीं करते लोग. 97% of money is returned by the self-help groups under the bank linkage projects, और 6% के रेट पर इनका लोन देना बढ़ता जा रहा है ईयर ऑन ईयर. The compounded annual growth rate of loans being given under bank linkage project has been at 6%, and 97% is the recovery rate of these loans. So these are all again good news when it comes to self-help groups. Then of course it has given women familiarity with money handling. They take their independent financial decisions like how much to spend, how to earn their income, how to buy raw materials from the market. They have improved social networks. Women from different self-help groups interact with each other. If somebody is in industry, somebody is in agriculture, they interact and they can do business with each other. And then asset ownership. Due to self-help group participation, many times they are collective owners of some asset that they have created, like a machine or a wing or an equipment. And then it has given livelihood diversification. कोई लोग पोल्ट्री में हैं, कोई लोग कोई जो है वो फूड प्रोसेसिंग में चले गए हैं, कोई जो है वो कैटल रियरिंग में चले गए, तो लाइवलीहुड डाइवर्सिफिकेशन के मेथड्स मिले, कोई बैंगल मेकिंग करने लगे. सो देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज इन विच लाइवलीहुड हैज बीन डाइवर्सिफाइड यूजिंग द सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप मेथड. इन केस यू एवर गेट टू राइट impact of self-help group, build on these points, and also remember it has created empowered women in rural areas. That is the key factor, because most of the self-help groups are established in rural areas. So it has created empowered women in the rural areas. Now there are few way forward that we need to keep in mind for self-help groups. So one is access to last mile ability to draw on communities trust and solidarity. self-help group के जो facilitation है कि क्या वो कर सकते हैं self-help group, तो last mile accessibility देते हैं किसी भी system को, किसी भी social group को. Last mile accessibility to a social group building on trust. तो लोगों का ट्रस्ट जीतने का काम आता है, सरकार के जो प्रोग्राम्स हैं वो ज़्यादा अच्छा इंप्लीमेंट होंगे. सो विनिंग ट्रस्ट ऑफ द पीपल इज वन थिंग दैट द सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप कैन डू. द अदर थिंग दैट द सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स कैन डू is that local dynamics can be captured. अगर किसी लोकल एरिया में एग्जैक्टली क्या चेंजेस आ रहे हैं और उनके थ्रू हम क्या बेनिफिट्स ला सकते हैं, सो दोज लोकल डायनेमिक्स कैन बी कैप्चर्ड. थर्ड इज ability to swiftly manufacture simple products. सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स क्या कर सकते हैं, छोटे प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं टेक्सटाइल से रिलेटेड, हेल्थ केयर से रिलेटेड, जैसे मास्क बनाए कोविड के समय बहुत ज़्यादा सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स ने, तो स्विफ्टली मैन्युफैक्चर करते हैं स्मॉलर प्रोडक्ट्स. दैट इज अनदर थिंग दैट द सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स कैन डू. Another thing that the self-help groups can do is that less privileged people can be brought under this umbrella and they will get a good bargaining power. The less privileged people can be brought under this umbrella and they can get good bargaining power. So if you add these things to your answer, these are the 4 suggestions given by Economic Survey as to how self-help groups contribute to overall rural and economic development of the people. Then the survey comes up to urban data on periodic labor force survey, and again they show that the labor force participation rate, which had declined drastically in this time period, has again started moving ahead. But if you look at things, the labor force participation rate and overall has not shown a huge increase. The labor force participation rate overall has not shown a huge increase between 2019 and 2022. If you see the worker population ratio, now there are more workers reporting themselves at work. But if you look at unemployment rate, barring the pure COVID phenomena, the unemployment rate has shown a declining trend in India. But mind you, it is still around 6% to 7%, which is beyond the comfort zone that India lives in. अभी भी हमारा unemployment rate 6 to 7% के ऊपर है, जो हमारे comfort zone के ऊपर है. That is the problem, that they are beyond our comfort zone. So this is something we got to be careful about. Then there is another thing they say, that according to the quarterly employment survey, if we look at number of workers, the number of workers has been showing an increasing trend. अगर क्वार्टरली एम्प्लॉयमेंट सर्वे के हिसाब से देखें तो ये नंबर ऑफ वर्कर्स एक इंक्रीजिंग ट्रेंड शो कर रहा है. बट इसमें यह भी देखना पड़ेगा कि कितने लोग एंटर कर रहे हैं वर्कफोर्स को, और इसीलिए हमारा अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट ठीक से नीचे नहीं जा रहा. मोर पीपल आर एंटरिंग द वर्कफोर्स, आई एम सॉरी, एंड दैट इज व्हाई आवर अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट इज नॉट शोइंग अ गुड करेक्शन. अदर देन दैट, इफ ये प्रीलिम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इज एम्प्लॉइंग 39% पीपल among the employment survey. तो जो लोग यूनिट्स, रजिस्टर्ड यूनिट्स में कन्वर्टेड हैं अर्बन एरियाज में, वहाँ कहाँ एम्प्लॉयमेंट ज़्यादा और कहाँ कम है. सो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इज 39%, एजुकेशन इज 22% एंड हेल्थ केयर इज 11%. तो आप ये ध्यान में रखेंगे. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स IT BPOs 12%. आप ये टॉप 4 याद रख लो, प्रीलिम्स के लिए काफ़ी है आपके लिए. हाईएस्ट इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, then in education, then in IT BPO and then healthcare. तो ये 4 याद रख लोगे अगर, तो भी हमारा काम चल जाता है from prelims point of view. These numbers are important for that. Then the next thing that comes is that under distribution of factories and all, where is the employment range? Again remember, if you look at factories in operation and total persons engaged, जो 40% of factories हैं, they are engaging 0 to 14. That factories in operation 40% are engaging 0 to 14. और उसके अलावा 10% और हैं, another 10% जो 29 तक engage करते हैं. मैं समझाना कुछ चाहता हूँ तुम्हें, that less than 100 workers को engage करने वाले factories इंडिया में approximately 80% हो जाते हैं. लेस देन 100 वर्कर्स को एंगेज करने वाले फैक्ट्रीज 80% हो जाते हैं, और यही हमारे मिसिंग मिडिल का प्रॉब्लम है. ज़्यादा फैक्ट्रीज वैसे होने चाहिए जो 100 के ऊपर वर्कर एम्प्लॉय करें, तो उनको इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल मिलेगा, एडवांटेज ऑफ लार्ज स्केल प्रोडक्शन मिलेगा. अब इकोनॉमिक सर्वे तो बड़े आराम से कह देते हैं कि नंबर्स बढ़ रहे हैं, दैट इज व्हाट इकोनॉमिक सर्वे सेज. और अगेन मैं उससे मना नहीं करता, द नंबर्स ऑफ फैक्ट्री एम्प्लॉयमेंट इज राइजिंग, स्पेशली इन दीज नंबर्स आर comparatively higher than what they used to be in the past. And economic survey says that that shows more formalization of the workforce. But if you ask me, these are not always good news, because it is still showing the missing middle in India. So this is again something we should get worried about. और ये show करता है lack of manufacturing development in India. अगर इंडिया में जब तक हम लोग structural reforms नहीं लाएंगे, manufacturing development होना मुश्किल है, और जब तक manufacturing development नहीं होगा, employment generation will keep struggling. So we need to develop our manufacturing and bring structural reforms for employment generation. अब ये survey use करते हैं Employees Provident Fund Organization का data and Employees State Insurance Corporation ka data to prove again that if we look at last few years, the numbers are showing an upward trend with respect to the registrations that are adding to EPFO. EPFO में registration add करने का मतलब ज़्यादा workers खुद को formalize कर रहे हैं, लेकिन एक बात आप ये समझना, इसका मतलब ये नहीं होता ज़रूरी कि नए वर्कर्स ही आ रहे हैं. इसका मतलब ये भी हो सकता है कि जो पहले के अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर वर्कर हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर में आ रहे हैं. सो ईपीएफओ नंबर्स राइजिंग इज ओके, it's a good news, more workers are formalizing, but that does not necessarily mean that new workers are necessarily coming in. It can also mean that the old workers might be formalizing. And then comes the numbers of people who are picking work under MNREGS. अब यहाँ कुछ अच्छा समाचार दिख रहा है. अच्छा समाचार ये दिख रहा है कि ये जो पीक पीरियड दिखता है हमारा, ये पीक थोड़ा कम आ गया करंट ईयर में. ये 2022-23 है, ये येलो कर्व, तो ये पीक पीरियड थोड़ा कम आया. ये कुछ अच्छी बात है. अच्छी इसलिए कि कोविड के समय जो ये पीक इतना हाई चला गया था, ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा लोग को गांव जाना पड़ा था, वो शो कर रहा है दैट मे बी द कंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटी इज पिकिंग अप इन द सिटीज विद अदर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज पिकिंग अप. नाउ द नंबर ऑफ पीपल सीकिंग जॉब अंडर मनरेगा, द ट्रेंड्स लुक सिमिलर बट इज मच लेसर than 2021 and even lesser than 21-22. 19-20 is almost converging here, so that means that the Manrega work is more or less coming back on track to where it was. But it is still a work in progress. It is still a work in progress. We don't know. अभी फ्यूचर में क्या किस तरफ जाते हैं हमें देखना पड़ेगा. But chances that Manrega work will be demanded much lesser compared to what was demanded earlier is something now much in a better shape. Now also remember, मनरेगा work has been improved. पहले मनरेगा वर्क जो होता था 2014 के पहले, मनरेगा वर्क used to be a lot of unproductive assets where no productivity was seen. Now मनरेगा work has been including even development of household assets. आप अपने घर में भी कोई asset develop कर रहे हो तो मनरेगा के अंदर उसको लाया जा सकता है अगर पंचायत ने उसको identify कर लिया है. If the panchayat has identified that work, then it can be brought even if you are working at home. For example, developing farm ponds, developing animal sheds, developing wells in the house, horticulture practice. All these are now coming under Manrega. So the long-term implications are there that income diversification can happen with these multiple assets that will be created under Manrega. These multiple assets that will be created under Manrega. So as I told you, the government has made an announcement in 2022-23 that the National Career Service Portal, this National Career Service Portal was launched in July 2015, and this is a one-step solution for career-related services and employment where both employees and employers register themselves. In fact, 2.8 crore job seekers have registered on National Career Service Portal and 6.8 lakh employers are also registered over there. अच्छी बात यह है कि अब सरकार ने बोल दिया है कि National Career Service Portal will have interlinkage with Manrega, will have interlinkage with the ASEEM portal and will have interlinkage with 𝐸-श्रम portal. So that will mean more pool of workers can be gathered. साथ में सरकार ने एक और announcement किया है that international job module will also be uploaded on the portal from March 2022. So that National Career Services Portal will now become a one-stop solution and connected to other portals for job seekers in India. ये discussion page 173 of economic survey पर है. It will help you. Again, if you find time, You can read through that, and this is a discussion on page 173. Then the other thing is about share of completed works under मनरेगा by count. और इसमें अगर तुम देखो तो लैंड डेवलपमेंट का शेयर लगातार बढ़ता जा रहा है. If you see, this is the land development share, and if you see, the land development share has been quite dominant in all of this, along with water conservation. क्योंकि जल जीवन मिशन है और साथ में लैंड डेवलपमेंट में आ जाता है digging up of pits, digging up of wells, creating agricultural development facilities, mixing of land, humus creation in land, water table, रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग सिस्टम्स. तो इसीलिए लैंड डेवलपमेंट इतना डोमिनेंट होता है. और साथ में द सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट इज वाटर कंजर्वेशन. अगेन फ्रॉम एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, अगर कभी तुमसे रैंडमली पूछ लिया दैट अंडर मनरेगा विच इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट स्कीम यूज्ड, लैंड डेवलपमेंट, सेकेंड हाईएस्ट वाटर कंजर्वेशन, तो ऐसे याद रख पाओगे. तो कभी कभी प्रीलिम्स में रैंडम स्टेटमेंट्स जो आते हैं, जो इन्हीं डायग्राम्स पे बेस्ड होते हैं, उनको आंसर कर पाओगे. एंड अनदर इज renovation of traditional water bodies. So water, land development, water conservation and renovation of traditional water bodies. जैसे कोई तालाब सूख रहा है उसको रिनोवेट किए, कोई नदी सूख रही है उसको रिनोवेट किए. तो ये मनरेगा के मेन इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट्स आ जाते हैं. Then the next thing that comes, अब यहाँ एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात है. Nominal rural wage has shown an increasing trend both for agriculture and non-agriculture wages in rural areas, and men and women both, more or less it has shown an increasing trend. The real picture comes in the real rural wage, which shows a declining trend. आप देखिए यहाँ ये declining trend के times है. Real rural wage कहीं यहाँ था, अब नीचे आ गया, कहीं यहाँ था, नीचे आ गया. तो पिछले एक साल में real rural wage नीचे आया है, एग्रीकल्चर के लिए भी, नॉन एग्रीकल्चरल मेन के लिए भी, और विमेन का स्टैग्नेंट है. ये एक चिंताजनक विषय है. लेकिन क्यों हुआ ऐसा? नॉमिनल एग्रीकल्चरल वेज हैज गॉन अप, बट इन्फ्लेशन हैज गॉन अप एट एन इवन फास्टर रेट. नॉमिनल एग्रीकल्चरल वेज हैज गॉन अप, बट इन्फ्लेशन हैज गॉन अप at an even faster rate, and therefore we see that the overall agricultural wage real terms has come down. Prelims में ऐसे trends पे सवाल पूछे जाते हैं, तो ये ध्यान में रखोगे. अगर कोई पूछे ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, it is happening because inflation has become higher than the nominal wage. Especially आपको पिछली क्लास याद होगी, मैं बता रहा था that rural inflation has picked up in India in the last 1 year, and due to that, even though the nominal rural wage has gone up, the real rural wage has remained constant. All right, this is on employment and inequality and so on discussion that we have today. I will meet you again on Monday, and we will discuss on education, healthcare and steps taken by the government to improve these provisions. So have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Monday we will have a longer session. I'll keep giving you breaks in between, but I'm planning a 3-hour session on Monday, finishing this chapter and chapter 8. Chapter 8 करेंगे पहले, climate का chapter बाद में करेंगे, 6 and then 8. So I'll see you on Monday. We'll begin from here. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.